Outrage as California opens up a $300 million home loan scheme to migrants. Yeah, you don't have to be a U.S. resident. So now all of this affordability and lack of housing, it's just going to get worse. Yeah, let's check it out. Here we go. So Californians are reacting angrily to revelations that migrants who entered the U.S. illegally, otherwise known as illegals, they could soon benefit from a taxpayer-funded state scheme. Taxpayers funding this scheme. Yeah, keep hearing about that, right? To help hard-up residents buy homes. Now, they're saying residents, but not legal residents, illegal residents. So, you know what? I am not opposed to however people can get their hands on a home, getting it. But when you've got a situation where those who are coming into the United States aren't even citizens yet, and you're already competing for a very small amount of housing, and it's gotten super expensive, anything that kind of tilts some of that equation, to me, I'm a hard no-go on. We had another one here. Taxpayer-funded group offers $30,000 to new home buyers as long as they aren't U.S. citizens. This was in Oregon. As long as they aren't U.S. citizens, yep, we'll help you out with that down payment. Literally just, no, if you're a U.S. citizen, no go. We can't help you out. You need to be illegal, and you need to be pre-approved. So podcast is out on that one. This is another one of those deals where it looks like the Democrats are basically just trying to load the stands with their people that they know are going to vote for them come election time. Oh, yeah, we helped them out by getting them into the country, and we let them stay here, and we gave them work visas, and then we gave them the ability to buy a home. They're going to vote for us. Is that what's going on? Is that the end goal here? Is that the end game? I mean, as these stories stack up, it kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Democrats on the California Senate Appropriations Committee have approved a bill to move forward that would open up the California Dream for All shared appreciation loan program to non-legal migrants. Does any other country in the United States, any other country in the U.S., does any other country in the world bend over backwards so hard to welcome people into the country, regardless of the vetting process? Just say, come on in, come on in, come on in. Does any other country do that? No, because they're not going there. You know what I mean? The scheme was launched last year and was already provided thousands of first-time homebuyers with loans up to 20% of a house's purchase price for down payment or closing cost. Okay, so you've got 100% financing here. I'm going to go on a little bit of a the other piece of information I want to get to you is further down. Instead, they're interest free and don't require monthly payments. So you don't have to pay on these loans. Instead, when the mortgage is either refinanced or sold, the borrower pays back the original sum of the loan plus 20% of the increase in the home's value. So the state is basically an equity partner by giving 20% down payment, not charging interest, and only expecting that money back when there's money available in the form of proceeds from a sales transaction or refinance. So, whatever lender you go to would have to refinance you out of that additional amount of money as well. And then you got to pony up another 20% of the increase in the home's value. What if the home hasn't, increased in value? I'll figure it out. And these things are, what this is a teetering scheme that when the market turns down slightly and people don't have equity or they have negative equity, and that's very easy to have happen on a zero down program, the less equity you have in a home, the more likely it is that you're just going to walk away from it. You've just got a foreclosure deal waiting to happen. Now, I know people want to say, well, homes are so expensive. They are. But if you have zero stake in that home and things go slightly south, like we saw in the Great Recession, and they went wildly south. At the beginning, it was more of a, the hot markets kind of cooled off. There's a cooling in the marketplace. And then as that momentum where home buyers were not able to sell their home for what they owed, and they either went into a foreclosure or a short sale position, that's when the market really started to accelerate negatively. And the more buyers that you have in a marketplace that's dependent upon appreciation, what if you don't have appreciation? What if the appreciation goes negative and you've got a house that goes from 900 to 800? Do you think these folks are going to walk away? Absolutely. I mean, just the odds of that going up are astronomical. And we know this because after the Great Recession, lending went through all of these gyrations of, we're going to tighten up these programs. We're going to get rid of the zero down. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of, no doc loans. We're going to get, making this easy for people. It's not working. Well, here we are right back to the beginning. Right back to the beginning. Now you still got to qualify for these loans. And it's like, what a mess. San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond said that the bill was a waste of taxpayers' money. Okay. All right. I'm with you, Jim. Once again, California has chosen to prioritize illegal immigration and fiscal irresponsibility over the needs of its citizens. Why don't you reduce restrictions on development? Go down some of those roads, because when you restrict everything like California has done, including the supply of housing, and that's what's happened in a lot of big blue states and a lot of big blue cities, is when you restrict everything, when you try and control everything, like a helicopter parent. I just got to control everything about my kids. I'm around parents now and I'm like, whoa, that's not how we did this 30 years ago, but whatever. I don't have children. I don't have babies anymore. So, you do your parenting thing and I'll do my grandparent thing here, coming soon, I hope. Nothing on that front so far, but I'm hoping. Come on, Karen, and you can do it. Expanding this program to include illegal immigrants is not just another handout. It's a massive overreach that shifts the financial burden onto law-abiding taxpayers, because we're footing the bill. You feel good about that? Hey, down payment. Maybe you had to work really hard to get your down payment, right? I mean, 20% of $900K, 180 grand, and then you got to start making payments on that bad boy. I mean, housing is expensive. And in so many of these big markets, housing is just outrageous. Meanwhile, Golden State residents and others took to social media to brand the plan insane, nonsense, and evil. Now, I don't know if you'd go as far as evil, but it just shouldn't be happening. One critic called for a taxpayer revolt, while another said that the funds should flow instead to homeless veterans. I'm not disagreeing. And I am not saying that folks shouldn't have, some help getting into housing. You gotta help some of these people get into housing. And I get it. Not everybody can come up with that 20%. In fact, very few can come up with the 20% now. In this last go around since July of 2022, it's become very apparent in very expensive cities that only the basically elite can afford a home now without, going many miles out from the employment centers. So the amended bill 1840 has already passed in the Assembly. Of course it has, and will go to a floor vote in the state Democrat-run Senate. I'm sure this will pass. California, it's got one more reason where folks don't want to live there. Hey, my money's going to this program. The taxpayer-funded scheme is hugely popular in a state where a single-family home costs an eye-popping $904,000 on average. So going back to my original statement, people need help getting into housing. They need that extra nudge. They need that whole nudge. But when you're talking about illegals, that their first act into the United States was to basically break a felony law, I'm not down with that. Once they get their citizenship, I'm like, all right, they're a citizen. Same deal, whatever. Don't care. But the loans are aimed at people who would otherwise not be able to get into the property ladder. Isn't that like 90-something% of the population now? What percentage of the population can... So 900,000, let's just run the numbers super quick. 900K. All right. 20% down. You got $180,000. So you have got a outstanding mortgage balance of $720,000. Your payments at 6.5% with taxes. I mean, what are those? Are those $7,000 a month, $6,000 a month, depending on what your interest rate is and depending on what taxes are? I mean, so you got to be making 20, 25 grand a month. So 240K, or more, 300,000 to afford a home. And you might say, well, dual income. I mean, not everybody has that secondary income. That's another 100K. Not everybody makes 100K. Not everybody makes 50K, right? So we've got this real kind of disconnect between who can afford a house and who can't. And now we're going to hand out, more money to folks that arguably have not been in the competition pool before. And all that does is just further restrict the supply, because now more people can get to it. And now you've got more competition feeding at the same trough. So yeah, there's that. But you know what? I'm sure it'll work out for California. I'm sure they've got so many good policies and good thought leaders in California that, it's all good, right? It's all good. I mean, Kamala Harris, and you got Newsom. I mean, they're your most recent examples of leadership that have done great things for the state of California, right? Am I right? Oh, no. Okay. The loans are aimed at people who would otherwise not be able to get one. So when applications for the $300 million program launched for some 2,300 first-time buyers in May of 2023, the funds ran dry in less than 2 weeks. People are absolutely strapped trying to get into a home. And so they rely on these programs. And now you're just going to, lob them out to who knows how many other thousands of people that otherwise wouldn't have qualified for them. And I'm sorry. Hey, if you're not a U.S. citizen, there are rules in place for how this should go. But over the last 3.5 years, those rules have just flown out the window. And now you're going to throw it out to housing. It doesn't make sense to me. Just does not make sense to me. I'm sorry. I'm old school. I do not believe this. Let's give them that. Let's give them that. Let's give them that. That's not how things should be run. And here's another thing. How many billions of dollars is California upside down? $70 billion. We haven't even touched on that. $70 billion. I mean, good Lord. California officials later tightened the program's rules by requiring at least one of the applicants to be a first-generation home buyer. They also introduced a lottery to select recipients. Just randomly go out. Hey, you, Mr. and Mrs. Illegal, you get a home. California. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're spending money you do not have for these social goodwill programs that you should not have. Yeah, this isn't helping folks. This is hurting folks. Tax-paying citizens, the ones paying for these programs. But if you're in California and your taxpayers' dollar is going for these programs, you probably voted in some of the politicians that are doing this damage. So, it's kind of on you. It's on you, residents of California, because folks from other states aren't voting on these politicians coming into office. You are. So this is the end result of years and years and years of misleadership. Simple as that. Plain and simple as that. As terrible policies that somehow in somebody's fuzzy mind at 2 a.m. sounds like a great program. And then it comes to fruition. It's the greatest thing ever. And somebody hits them up with, well, the reality is, here's what's going to happen. And then, no, that won't happen. That won't happen. A couple of years later, yeah, that happened. If only somebody would have warned us, right? That's what I feel like happens all the time. On these housing programs, when you give people money, they're not going to fight in battle. If they spent 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years working for that down payment, blood, sweat, and tears, they're going to do whatever it takes to not lose that home. If somebody else's bucks gave them their down payment and they're like a little upside down, well, it could kind of ride this one out, or we just bail, let the bank take the loss because we got nothing in it. There's an awful lot of that out there. Awful lot out there. And we hear it every single time you've got a market downturn, because that's when when things are going hot and heavy, when things are just screaming upwards, you don't see this as much. You don't see the headlines on this. But the reality is this is going to happen. So there's so many different aspects to this that it's just wrong, should not be happening. But you know what? It's California. California's got its own little deal going on, right? So you wonder how housing gets so expensive in California, median home $900K. Yeah, it's due to silliness like this. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.